Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss the descriptive essays. As we know that in section 1 of paper 1, talking about O level, section 1 paper 1 is creative writing, and in creative writing you need to write three types of essays. Although you have to write only one of those three types of essays that are given to you. One is the narrative essay, the other is the argumentative essay, and the third is the descriptive essays. It is thought that descriptive essays are the most difficult types of essays that one has to write. So today we will discuss how to write a descriptive essay. There are some important points that I will be providing you. We will be discussing in this lesson. That first is descriptive writing may have narrative element to it. It means it can include some part of a story, some part of a narrative in a description. Suppose if you are writing about a wedding and you are describing some wedding ceremony or any other ceremony, if you are describing some scene on a railway station or an important incident, whatever you are describing, that will have some narrative part in it as well. There will be some story that you will include in that description as well. So keep it in mind that whenever you are writing a descriptive essay, it is not necessary, or in fact it is necessary, that it will have some element of narrative essay as well. Definitely when you will be describing some scene, when you are describing some situation, you have to narrate whatever that situation is or that scene is. Yet it must not lose its identity as a piece of a descriptive writing. It must not rely too much on narrative. This is a very thin line between a narrative and descriptive. It should not be completely narrative. Like in narrative essays, and another important thing is, when you are writing a narrative essay, it has an element of some element of descriptive essay as well. And similarly, when you are writing a descriptive essay, it has some element of a narrative essay as well. But the important thing is that both these essays, if you are writing a descriptive essay, it should not lose its identity as a descriptive essay. If you are writing a narrative essay, it should not lose its identity as a narrative essay, because narrative essay will obviously have some descriptive part as well. Number 2, it should be roughly between 350 to 500 words as the limit prescribed by the Cambridge. You have to write 350 to 500 words, but you can exceed by, let's say, 20 to 25 words or even 30 words if the situation requires you. Number 3, dialogues are not expected in descriptive essays. So focus must be on description and not on development of a story. You will not include the dialogues. Obviously it will have some element of the narrative, but that doesn't mean that you will start. Narratives have dialogues, you all know that, but in narratives as well we use the dialogues sparingly. I mean, we do not use the dialogues too much. So it cannot have the dialogues, a descriptive essay. Using all the techniques as imagery techniques, personification, concrete nouns, adjectives, metaphors, verbs, etc. for description are the prime importance here. But it is not wrong if the writer intends to write some dialogues, only if they are to arouse feelings. In that case, minimum of dialogues could be written. Again, you can include the dialogues only and only if they are to arouse the feelings. And then you are being told that you will use the linguistic tools like imagery techniques, which includes personification, concrete nouns, adjectives, metaphors, so all these techniques. And what is a personification, we will discuss later in this lesson. What is metaphor, what are imagery techniques, we will discuss later in this lesson. Keep listening. Number 5, students often misunderstand with what is meant by the use of good vocabulary and unnecessary use of difficult words. I always tell you that do not use unnecessary difficult words, because that may leave negative impression on the examiner. The examiner might think that you are trying too much to impress him rather than focusing on the task in your hand. It is a fact that those students who use good words will put a positive impression. However, it should not be overdone. No matter what, the word used should help to clarify the meaning of the text rather than obscure it. Sometimes when trying to impress the examiner, you overdo it and you obscure instead of clarifying the meaning of the text, you obscure it. Avoid the overuse of difficult words. This is another very important point in descriptive writing. Descriptive essays can be imaginative and also be based on real incidents. This is very important. Again, we discuss time and again that be it a narrative, be it a descriptive or any other piece of writing, don't think that the incidents have to be real, something that has happened to you in your life. It should be the best piece of writing is a combination of your imagination and the real based incidents. Try to use variety of senses like hear, touch and smell to make your writing interesting. Here's a quick review of 5 techniques you should use in your writing. These techniques obviously are the imagery techniques, the senses of hear, touch and smell, because you have to make the reader of your essay clear about the situation. You have to make that reader, you have to involve the reader in the situation, you have to describe the scene, and you have to, draw a picture in front of in the mind, in the front of the eyes of the reader whenever he reads your text. So there should be imagery techniques. What are imagery techniques? Basically that create an image in the mind of the reader. And not only the imagery techniques, but also you have to use the variety of senses like hear, touch and smell in order to describe your scene. Now here we will see the 5 techniques that you will use in your writing. First is a metaphor. First of all, what is a metaphor? That we all know what is a metaphor. Metaphor is when we compare two different things without using the word like or as. Whenever we use the word like or as, that becomes a simile. When we compare two different things and we do not use the word like or as, that is called a metaphor in order to describe this that object. For example, one example is given. One example of metaphor is given. The tree was an angry giant. So tree is being compared with the angry giant without using the word as or like. If it was like the tree was like an angry giant, or the tree was as an angry giant, in that case that would become a simile, because we have used the word like or as to compare two different things. And there can be other examples of metaphor as well. Many other examples you can take. Our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feast of the mind. Another example of metaphor is our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feast of the mind. In this sentence, the words are being compared with the crumbs that fall down the feast of the mind. He is a lion. If you want to describe the bravery of some person, you will say he is a lion. In that case, he is a lion. You are comparing two different things. You are comparing that person with the lion without using the word like, so that will be a metaphor. And he is brave as a lion. In that case, you have used the word as, so that will become a simile. So these are different techniques that you will use in your descriptive writing. Then there are similes. Similes, whenever in the metaphor, same example. Okay, he's as brave as lion. This is a simile. He is a lion is a metaphor. He is like a lion, or he is brave like a lion, is a simile. And use the words as or like to compare two different objects or ideas. She was as ugly as a witch. If you say she was a witch, that will be a metaphor. If you will say that she was as ugly as a witch, that will be a simile. White as an ice, cold as an ice, safe as a house, as blue as sky. All these are similes. What do? They create the image in the mind of the reader, whatever you are describing. Then there is alliteration. Alliteration is when there is a repetition of words, the repetition of sounds. And the example of alliteration is given. Repeat the beginning sound of the word next to each other. For example, Ben bumped backwards. Ben bumped backwards is alliteration because the beginning sounds are being repeated. And beware the barrenness of a busy life is an example of alliteration as well. The very famous brand Coca-Cola, that is alliteration as well, Coca and Cola, because the same sounds. Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse. So all these are the examples of alliteration. Alice ate all the apples in the afternoon. Alice ate all the apples in the afternoon. This is another example of alliteration. Then there is personification. When you give some non-human attributes to a human, like when you say Justice is blind and sometimes deaf. Justice is an inhuman thing, it's not a human, but you are giving some human traits or human qualities to a non-human thing, to Justice. When you say Justice is blind, persons can be blind, obviously. It is not the trait of the Justice, but you are giving a human trait to a non-human thing. Justice is blind, that is personification. It means you are personifying justice. It means you are personifying justice. Money is the only friend that I can count on. Money is the only friend I can count on. This is another example of personification. You are personifying the money, giving human attributes to money. So these are the imagery techniques. These are the techniques that create the image in the mind of the reader, that provokes the senses of the reader, the hearing sense, the smelling sense, and the seeing sense. Descriptive tools should not be merely inserted to impress the reader. All these tools that I will give you some more example of the personification as well that you can use. The brown grass was begging for water. The brown grass was begging for water. Again, you are giving human quality to the brown grass. Humans can beg, grass cannot beg, so you are personifying grass. These are the techniques that you should use in your descriptive writing. And then descriptive tools, all these are descriptive tools. The linguistic tools should not be merely inserted to impress the reader, but to clarify your text, to create an image in the mind of the reader, to describe your situation, to describe your text, to describe your essay more clearly, more efficiently, more effectively. Your task is to write an essay on my mother. Write an essay on my mother. This is a descriptive essay. That's it for now.